29, exclusive programming for Comcast subscribers.
Women, if they ever get organized, we're going to have a different world, and it might be a better world. One of the great organizations regarding women is the National Organization for Women, and we have with as our guest in the studio today 2 ladies from the National Organization. We have Michelle Knight. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Ken.
You're the Vice President of the Jacksonville area now, and we have Jessica McCaffery. You are the Legislative Director for the state of Florida.
Right.
NOW organization. The NOW organization has been around since 1967, I understand.
1966.
1966,
actually.
okay. And you've been members for a long time, and you became a member of NOW for what reason? What brought you as individuals to NOW?
Outrage.
Outrage.
It was more, I don't know, one day I woke up and was like, where are we going as a nation? And it just really upset me. And the position that women have held traditionally has been as second-class citizens, and it got my passion going.
Got your passion going? One day you woke up and realized and thought of yourself as a second-class citizen?
Well, I had always hoped not to think that way about myself, and that we have these rights that the nation doesn't currently guarantee or recognize, and that's what got me going. And so I found NOW, and it's really been worth my time.
Michelle, how about you? What brought you to NOW?
Well, I've been a member of NOW. I'm quite a bit older than Jessica is, so I've been a member of NOW for many, many years. And it started for me, really, I think, back in the 1980s when there was a lot of clinical violence and things of that nature going on. That's when I first got involved with NOW, because I really felt that was very wrong.
Well, when you say clinical violence, be more specific.
I'm talking about abortion clinics that were Operation Rescue and organizations like that were actually doing protesting outside. And I was on the line that was trying to defend the people who had every
Were you an
right.
escort?
I was an escort for a while, absolutely. Now, more recently, I've gotten back into it really because actually I went to the local NOW chapter the day after President Bush got into office for a second round.
Which President Bush? Our president? This
Our
one?
current President Bush, yes. When he came in last year, it was just more than I could really handle personally, because I just don't think that he's very friendly towards women.
What's the mission of NOW?
Well, the mission of NOW is to take action to bring women into full participation in the mainstream of America, with all the privileges and rights.
So you're drawing a distinction between genders, I'm presuming. Or you're saying, for example, women in the workforce. You have statistics that show, even today, that women are paid less for comparable jobs,
absolutely.
correct? And that would I would think that would anger anybody, regardless of their gender.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing about NOW. It's the National Organization for Women. It's not of women. I mean, what we're trying to do is make sure that America as a whole, men and women, understand that there are a lot of issues that we have as our priorities here. And what we're really trying to do is make sure that women get a fair shake, that they are treated as equals. I mean, when I'm working at a job and you're working at a job and we're doing the same job, we should get equal pay. There shouldn't be, he's a man, he's the head of the house, Because actually in today's society, that's not even true half the time anymore. You know, you have women who are the head of the household, unfortunately, a single woman carrying
that's
children.
fine. I mean, and we have a lot of homes that are broken where there's only a single
Absolutely.
person, be it a male or a female.
Absolutely.
We don't always have married couples in the households now. What are some of the other issues that now gets behind?
Well, we have 6 top priorities and issues. Achieving constitutional equality, and these are in no particular order, but achieving constitutional equality.
Constitutional equality?
The Equal Rights Amendment, basically it's just says that the states and the federal government can't create any laws that on the basis of sex discriminate.
Why would the Equal Rights Amendment, let's talk about that a little bit, then let's get back to the other 5 that you want to talk about. Well, I just read something recently in trying to prepare a little bit for this program that the Equal Rights Amendment first was mentioned back in the 1920s.
1923 it was introduced.
Right.
And it was actually passed by Congress almost 50 years later, 1972. We have 50 states. We need 38 states to ratify it, and we've been sitting at 35 for practically 30 years. And one of the states that hasn't ratified it, unfortunately, is the state that we live in. It's Florida. So we need 3 states right now to actually get this passed. And it's been 82 years that since it was first introduced.
Do you lobby? You're a legislative, do you lobby, Jessica?
Well, I don't personally do the lobbying. We actually have a lobbyist that we pay to do that for us, 2 lobbyists, and they both do a wonderful job, and they lobby on many issues, all of our issues actually. And we can continue talking about those now if you'd like.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, another issue is advancing reproductive rights. We support abortion rights, of course, but beyond that, we support access to all forms of birth control, emergency contraception. We have a campaign to make that over-the-counter. Also, all the reproductive health services and health education. That's medically accurate and appropriate.
Abortion. It's a hot button. It's an extremely emotional topic. You prepared to talk about it?
Absolutely.
I recently reread Roe v. Wade, and I forgot that in Roe v. Wade, Justice Harry Blackburn wrote the prevailing opinion and gave a history of abortion throughout the ages, going back to ancient Persia. And a lot of what the problems were throughout our societies and civilizations were when abortions were performed, we were not good at it. We didn't understand it, and women were dying in the process at alarming rates. That's changed, right?
It has.
And actually what Sarah Weddington went through in her arguments for Roe were that with the advent of penicillin, that the abortions, if they were performed by a medical professional in a sterilized condition, that the rates of mortality for women having abortions were falling because we'd figured it out. And it was safe. And so all these laws that had been created to protect women's safety and their health were more or less obsolete because we now had antibiotics. And that was a very strong part of her argument, that said all these laws that were the precedents of all these other laws, and this was a Texas case, these Texas laws were actually endangering women's health and lives. And so
it was a crime. Doctors would go to jail, to prison for years if they were caught performing an abortion.
It was the doctors, not the women, who were criminalized. And that was creating a very unsafe environment for women.
And when we look at it from a constitutional perspective, is an embryo a fetus? Is a fetus a person? The Constitution makes no reference to anything other than a person, and even then, it doesn't totally define what a person is. So we have to go to other sources for a person, but it doesn't make any reference to the unborn either. So in terms of our rights in this society, we give rights to what we call people, persons.
Absolutely.
And we haven't come to the point where we say a fetus or an embryo is a person. And that is part of what the debate is. Some of the people on the other side are going to say life begins at conception.
Absolutely.
And what Roe v. Wade does is doesn't isolate the woman in her privacy. Roe v. Wade made mention of privacy and a woman's right to choose.
Well, I think
but it took it in the context of being pregnant and didn't give unfettered abortion rights to the women. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, I really think that that's the most important thing, is what you were just saying about privacy. I mean, really what Roe versus Wade did, in my opinion, is it said that my body is my body. And the government can't legislate what I can do to it. Other people can't tell me what I can do with my own body when it comes to this particular decision. And there's a lot of other decisions, of course, out there we're all allowed to make. I mean, you know, we don't have to ask permission to do that. And this is, I mean, the most personal decision that there is.
But a woman doesn't have an unbridled right to an abortion either.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right?
I mean,
there are some restraints, there are some limits,
Very
and Roe
true.
v. Wade does put those limits on. Would you agree with that?
Right. Well, a lot of the misconception about the Roe decision was that it gave carte blanche to women to, up until the day that she delivers, abort her unborn child or fetus or whatever you want to say it is. It actually made a case for a state's interest in a viable child or a viable fetus, and actually allowed states to pass restrictions for the women's health, but never to actually outlaw when it came down to a question of the woman's health or safety.
One of the tenets that I believe freedom is choice.
Yes.
Nobody is forcing you to have an abortion, you or any woman, right?
Correct.
If the state can compel a woman not to have an abortion, why wouldn't it be equally proper for the state to compel a woman to have an abortion?
and you're right about that. I mean, you could see, I guess, if you looked at, you know, what used to be the 1984, which now is 2000 and something, I guess. But I mean, if you look at the way that things are going in other areas, I mean, certainly other areas of the world, there are people that can compel women to do certain things, and they don't have freedom of choice. And I think, especially when it comes to, you know, your own body, I mean, that's where we definitely and now are drawing a line and saying that, you know, I have the right to make those choices for myself.
And if you
and
have,
I'm smart enough to do that. I don't need you helping me.
right, and if you have religious convictions, there's nothing in Roe v. Wade that would preclude you from exercising your religious convictions regarding an abortion. The old line is, if you don't want to have one, don't have one.
Exactly.
Right.
Jessica,
Certainly.
what did you want to say?
Oh, actually, I was just hoping that we could move on because our time is very limited.
Go ahead. You go right ahead, Jessica. We're moving on now.
Actually, I'm going to allow Michelle to speak on a couple of our other issues.
Okay.
Well, another one of our priorities is really stopping violence against women, and that is an area that, of course, should concern everyone in America. There is a lot of violence out there. There's sexual harassment. There's physical violence that takes place every day because, you know, unfortunately, men are stronger than women, and well, fortunately, unfortunately, but still, it happens. You know, no
It's just
matter.
a fact of life.
It is a
but
fact
not
of life.
always. I've lost arm wrestling matches with some women. I'm not kidding.
But most recently in that particular area, I mean, we're now as an organization is extremely excited that Congress recently reauthorized the VAWA, which is the Violence Against Women Act. It was initially introduced in 1994, reauthorized in 2000, and it was again up for reauthorization in 2005. And it lagged there for about 4 months. We weren't really sure what was happening with it. It was kind of put on a back burner. But in December, through unanimous consent of the of the Senate and a voice vote of the House, they passed it, they reauthorized it again through 2009, and they've added some new programs, which is great, and they've enhanced a lot of the services to help women in violent situations, for instance, with housing. And they're starting to really address things like date rape, things that weren't really looked at that closely before. So I think that's an area that now had put a lot of emphasis in this past year, and especially during the past, I would say, 9 months of really focusing on getting that legislation passed through and adding some of these programs that we felt was really important to women.
Great. We're getting ready to take a short break.
Okay.
But before we go, when we come back, I want to ask you about the Supreme Court nominees. We have Sam Alito, who is now the nominee, who is going before Congress, Senate, and they're going to ask him questions. I think now has a strong opinion about Mr. Alito. He was. I think. I don't know. I think so. But we want to get into that a little bit if you're willing to do so. And then I want to talk a little bit about specifically what do you do locally in terms of trying to have events, in terms of raising the level of awareness for women's issues in the Jacksonville area now. You do have a web page. It's www.jacksnow.org.
It's www.jacksorg. I'm sorry, jacksnow.org. You've got me confused.
Now.org.
There we are.
It's probably on the screen. My name is Ken Hurley. You're actually watching a program called Civil Discourse. This program is sponsored by the American Civil Liberties Union of Greater Jacksonville, Florida. Thank you for being with us. We'll be right back.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
In these turbulent times, let us not erode the liberties our country was built on.
Let it shine.
Larry Parker, National Honor Society student. Patricia Stevenson, stockbroker. Hector DeSario, systems analyst. Driving while black or brown isn't a crime. If it's happened to you, call us at 1-8776-PROFILE and arrest the racism.
Welcome back to Civil Discourse. My name is Ken Hurley. You're watching a program sponsored by the American Civil Liberties Union of Greater Jacksonville, Florida. And we're talking about the National Organization for Women, the Jacksonville Area Now chapter. And we're in the studio talking now about, with Jessica and Michelle, recap, Michelle, if you would, real quickly, the 6 points. Just summarize those 6 points, the 6 top areas of concern for now.
Sure. Achieving constitutional equality, so the ERA, stopping violence against women, reproductive freedom, whether that's access to abortion or access to birth control, ensuring economic justice, pay equality, housing,
parity, right?
Anything like that. Promoting diversity and ending racism, and winning lesbian rights.
Lesbian rights, gay and well, that's all of those issues are very big for the ACLU. We're not so big on the parity in financial areas. A lot of people criticize ourselves for that, and we get a lot of criticism there. But for the most part, all of the other issues, we're right on the same page with you. Now, we have Sam Alito being considered by Congress right now. The Senate is going to consider. What have you considered? The ACLU has written a report, and this is available online to anybody that's interested in seeing it. It's called the Report of the American Civil Liberties Union on the nomination of the Third Circuit Court Judge Samuel A. Alito, Jr. to be Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court. It's a 72-page opinion from us to the world, and we give this to the senators and ask them to consider our opinions there. And one of our opinions is the man is very scholarly. He's got an impeccable academic record. He's been on the Third Circuit, which comprises of Pennsylvania, Delaware, New Jersey, and the Virgin Islands. Since 1990, he was appointed there by our president's father, George H. Bush, and he's written all sorts of opinions. That's what judges do. They write opinions. And once you have an opinion, it comes with a bias. It comes with a prejudice. Do you agree with his opinions? And if not, which ones do you disagree with?
Well, I feel that the main thing is that he represents a portion of the population that's far outside the mainstream. He is nominated to replace Sandra Day O'Connor, who has been a conservative judge. She was appointed by Reagan, but she's provided the critical votes on some of our issues. Like
she was a swing vote.
She was a swing vote.
A lot of people don't realize the Supreme Court opinions, the justices actually agree about 40% of the time. It's unanimous. It's the more controversial issues, such as the issues that you were talking about, the women's rights issues, reproductive issues, that the court gets divided. Right. Michelle, what are some of your concerns and from the now perspective?
Well, I think that, I mean, personally, I think his opinions have been wrong in so many different areas. And it's not just in the areas, I mean, we all know that, I mean, if we've listened to the news whatsoever, that that Samuel Alito has outright said that he does not believe that Roe versus Wade should have ever passed, and that it should be law. That was his opinion. He did a lot of research on there. So obviously we now, as an organization, disagrees, 100% with that. But we also have a lot of other areas. I mean, family and medical leave, sex discrimination, civil rights, gun control, an area where a lot of people would be very surprised to hear that he was the lone dissent in a vote saying that Congress had no right to make decisions about assault weapons and basically machine guns. And what we're talking about here was a gentleman who was selling machine guns at a gun show, and they were trying to stop him from being able to do that. And Alito came out saying that Congress didn't have the right to do that. And I disagree with that wholeheartedly. I don't think we need machine guns for any reason, period. But but
well, we do have the Second Amendment, and we can argue about and Congress does have the right, in our view, to regulate those weapons. But we do have a right in this country that to bear arms, and that would include, believe it or not, automatic weapons.
I do
but Congress also has a right to regulate them. So
especially when they're found to be used in crimes, especially when you're talking about intercommerce and across states, and taking things like that across state lines. I think they can regulate it.
Now, you said he was wrong in his opinion on reproductive rights, and there was this Planned Parenthood versus Casey case.
Right.
You want to talk a little bit about that, what that was about, and why you say he's wrong?
It was a Pennsylvania law, and it had a few different facets. But the facet that the Supreme Court eventually ruled against was that women who were married were required to notify their husbands before having an abortion. And Sandra Day O'Connor actually stated that it created an undue burden on these women, and for many reasons, for violence in the home, and many reasons why you may not wish to tell your spouse before being able to obtain a safe and legal abortion. It was rejected in the Supreme Court, but Alito felt that that was completely reasonable and didn't create any danger to the women.
It's interesting that he has been overturned by the Supreme Court on several of his more controversial decisions. That he wrote an opinion, sometimes the majority opinion, and then it went to the Supreme Court and it was overturned. And now here he is going to be sitting on the Supreme Court, and if that same decision were to come to him, it might not get overturned.
And that's exactly what, I mean, now's biggest problem is with this candidate. I mean, we are fearful in many ways that he is going to be, his nomination will be confirmed, and then we'll have someone who is not as reasonable as we would like to see, and who we do not feel is moderate in areas that are important to women throughout this nation.
So what does now do? Did you lobby Congress? Do you lobby the senators and tell them? You write in a report similar to the ACLU's report and offer that?
We absolutely have position papers out, and we definitely lobby at both the national levels and at the state levels and at the local levels. I mean, our particular chapter right now, we have a campaign against the Alito nomination. And we have put out on our website, jacksnow.org. Let's get it right this time.
All right, good.
But we do have letters for the senators that people can take down. We have a position paper up there that we have written. We have certainly sent information to the newspaper about our opposition to this candidate. We've held, protest rally against this candidate. So
Beyond some of these issues, some of the issues that the ACLU has pointed out is he's very supportive of the expansive powers of the executive branch. As we know that our president it's been revealed that he's been involved in wiretapping American citizens without a court order. Alito can write an opinion that supports that. That is extremely troubling for the ACLU.
Well, and when you're talking about personal privacy, I mean, the fact that we had he had a case where he upheld a police search of a woman and her 10-year-old daughter, and it was a strip search. When the police went to this house, they had a warrant that was search the house, search the man. they decided to search the wife and this 10-year-old child.
The daughter,
And,
right.
yes, and which
Right.
was just unbelievable. And Alito upheld that, but he was overturned. And yet again, another area where we just feel that it's unbelievable. This man does not want to protect what we consider to be the basic fundamental rights that Americans have, and personal privacy is one of them.
Fourth Amendment.
What do you do
Thank you.
locally? What do you do locally in terms of now? Do you have regular meetings? If so, how often do you have them? How can somebody join the local chapter of NOW?
Well, locally, we do meet. We meet once a month. We're meeting right now at the Regency Library over by Regency Square, and that is out on our website, you know, what our meeting dates are. It's the second Wednesday at 6:30 of every month.
It's a membership organization.
It is, but
How
it's
much
open.
does it cost? Anybody can come. You don't need to be a member?
And there really isn't. I mean, what we ask is a yearly membership fee of $35, but it absolutely is on a sliding scale. And what we're more interested in is having you there than we are worried about your money.
Show
If you're,
up.
yes, if you're not able to really contribute that way, contribute with your time and your effort. That's worth more than the $35.
What's the best
obviously.
way to get in touch with you if people want to join?
I would say really the website to start with, because we've got an address there and we have the phone number listed too for our local chapter. I mean, we have a
Phone number, is this the correct? 904-642-1953?
That is it.
That's so
that
people
is
could
it.
call that number and find out more
Absolutely.
information from you?
And we have a general membership meeting actually this coming week. Oh, I'm sorry, it won't show then, will it? Like I said, we have a membership meeting every month, and we talk for a period of time about what NOW is doing locally. And
What are some of the events that you do locally? Do you show films? Do you have speeches? Do you bring in speakers?
All of
Do you
it.
have rallies? Do you go out and have sign, will march, and petition?
That's what we like to be known for, actually, is yes, that marching thing. You know, it's good for us.
Right.
But we do all of those things, actually. We hold a bi-monthly film festival. We call it our Feminist Film Forum.
So you identify as feminist then?
Absolutely.
We are.
And that's not a derogatory term in your mind,
Right.
right? You wear that label proudly, correct?
Right. Well, it's just, you know, it's about bringing women into equality, and if that makes me a feminist, that's what I am. And it's just about gaining equity for everyone, regardless of however they were born.
So what do you show at the Feminist Film Festival? What kind of films do you show?
We've done a lot of different things. I mean, we've shown a film that was dealing with the issue of abortion, where we actually had, it was 3 different women and they made different choices. It was really about choice, I would say, but you know, one before abortion was actually approved and,
Look at this.
and legal.
You ever
Oh,
see
look
this
at us.
before? How can somebody get that?
That's actually part of the whole package when you join.
You get this in the
Yeah.
mail when you join?
And if you go on to either
Look at
our
this.
website, there's some links.
Anybody get this?
Absolutely.
What is
If
this?
you're our local, that's
That's
our,
the newsletter,
our
your local
newsletter
newsletter.
for this month.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So people get that, and people, and so you're actually active. You're not just a group of people that sit around and play bridge.
Absolutely.
You consider the id. You
I
consider
don't even know how to play bridge, Ken.
I'm a little young for that.
or Scrabble or cribbage or whatever. But you actually get involved. You're thoughtful individuals. Can men join?
Absolutely.
We have
a few.
members who are men.
You do, okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that's good to know. And if you wanted to sum this all up in 10 seconds, what do you want to say? This is your last shot.
Do you want to say? You want me to? I just think it's very important that people understand that women count.
Women count. It's about equality. If people want to learn more, go to the webpage. Thank you both for being here. It's been a
Thank you.
pleasure.
Thanks
I
so
really
much.
appreciate it. I hope
We
you'll come
really
back.
appreciate
You've been
it.
watching a program called Civil Discourse. My name is Ken Hurley, sponsored by the American Civil Liberties Union of Greater Jacksonville, Florida. See you next time. You have been watching a public access television program called Civil Discourse, sponsored by the American Civil Liberties Union of Greater Jacksonville, Florida. The ACLU is a private, nonprofit, nonpartisan membership organization. Our mission is to protect and advance the civil liberties and civil rights guaranteed by the United States Constitution, especially the principles contained in the Bill of Rights. We want to hear from you. Send us an email, share your views and opinions. If you're interested in appearing on the program, let us know. Friend or foe, we want you on the show. You may contact the ACLU in the following ways. Our telephone number is 904-396-5242. Our post office box is 5331 Jacksonville, Florida 32247, and our email address is aclujax@yahoo.com. My name is Ken Hurley. Thank you for participating in Civil Discourse.